Bitcoin finally got a decent bounce from the range lows, and in today's video we'll be talking about whether or not this bounce can be sustained to the upside liquidity or if this is just another lower high. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. As per usual on this Monday, kicking us off with the Bitcoin price action, you can see that we tapped all the way back down to the 107.3K region, and we actually wicked to a little bit below that level to liquidate some of those longs. Now, on this 12-hour time frame, this is looking like a pretty decent candle. You can see that at the time of recording this video, we are back above $109,000. The reason why this is important is because it shows that we tapped into a very, very significant level where there is a ton of confluence. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So we have these bands here, which I've been referring to as the bull market support band. Typically, when Bitcoin taps into this level during a bull market, we don't want to hold below them for too long, and we can find relief when we do tap into them. So you can see that right now we are technically getting relief here from the bull market support band. Why is this also important? Well, we tapped into our lower level of this range, which we've been covering on the channel for a month now. So this range has been very, very pertinent for Bitcoin. And why else is this level important? Well, going back to our previous range here, before Bitcoin made that new all-time high, you can see that this gray line is the point of control of the previous range where we had a lot of volume. And what do you notice? It falls right around 107.5K, which is the pivotal region around there that we bounce from. A lot of confluence from these levels, and if Bitcoin is to bounce hard, it should, in theory, be from here. But I'm not getting excited quite yet because we need to reclaim some key levels before we can say, yes, we will be getting the liquidity zones. Now, what are those levels? First of all, I want to see us go ahead and reclaim the previous all-time highs. Now, we have a few of them here that we need to pay attention to. The first one is, if we go all the way back here, right around inauguration top, which is when Bitcoin went to around 109.4K. Now, at the time of recording this video, you can see that we actually wicked above this level, and so far, we are getting rejected. We need to get back above this level if we are to see upside to, at the bare minimum, 112K. So right now, if we can reclaim 109.4K, I do think that 112K is on the cards. And then the reaction at 112K will be very telling as to where Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market could be headed next. What this means is we need to reclaim this level, and then we need to find our way back above 112K because that is also a significant previous all-time high. And if we can reclaim this level, then at that point, I would start to talk about the liquidity, which is found around 115 up to $120,000 for Bitcoin, somewhere around that region. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that I have been in a Bitcoin and Ethereum long. My Bitcoin long is still underwater, but I will likely be taking profits should we start confirming back above these levels on the way up, because I actually don't think that the base case here is that Bitcoin goes ahead and puts in a brand new all-time high. Can we tap liquidity higher? Yes, of course. But in the more short term, after we potentially tap into this liquidity, I would actually be expecting a little bit of a further correction for Bitcoin as per my previous analysis. So how am I playing this? I am in my Bitcoin and Ethereum longs. Look, we took some profits and now I just keep on sitting in this position until we potentially get further upside. Because if Bitcoin can go ahead and grab higher up liquidity, then at that point, I do think that ETH will flirt once again with its all-time high as well as $5,000. But we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm not getting ahead of myself here because you can see, yes, on the 4-hour time frame, we got a very nice bounce here after making a little bit of a double bottom. However, if this 4-hour candle that I'm recording right now ends up being red and we start trickling on a little bit lower, then we have to consider the possibility that Bitcoin could be going lower and it would be dragging the rest of the crypto market lower with it. Remember, around month end, month open, there is a lot of shenanigans in the market and we can get this volatility, which shakes a lot of traders out. Right now, my base case is that we can still potentially move higher, especially after getting a sweep at this crazy confluence level, the previous point of control with the bull market support band, with the bottom of the range, with as I've been sharing, a lot of liquidity to the upside still to be grabbed. However, I really don't want to see us continue to tap back into these lows once more, because otherwise I will simply cut my trade and reassess. That is how I'm currently navigating this market from a trading perspective. Now, from a spot portfolio perspective, I've been very vocal about just holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I have not changed a thing there. I also have not sold a single Bitcoin, nor have I sold Ethereum since we accumulated from those lows after that whole tariff capitulation. And just to point this out quickly, we also have the CME gap, which can be found between 114.2K up to around 116.8K. So if Bitcoin can reclaim these previous levels that I talked about, the two previous all-time highs, at that point, we can easily start targeting the liquidity which is found within the CME gap. So there's a lot of confluence. We should be moving higher, and this was the perfect level to get a bounce. Base case for me right now is a little bit higher before potentially moving lower, which will provide some great buying opportunities. However, as I said, I don't want to see us bounce lower from here, especially after getting a very, very nice bounce from this level. Let's see what happens. It is Labor Day, so the markets are technically closed. There's not that much liquidity in the crypto market either, so we'll have to see how this plays out. Now, we do have a very, very exciting week ahead. With rate cuts in September almost a certainty now at around an 89% chance, we also have tomorrow the ISM manufacturing PMI data, which will be very pertinent for the markets. And we have the JOLTS job openings on Wednesday, along with the ISM services PMI on Thursday, and then of course on Friday, non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate with FOMC in the following week. This should be a very, very volatile week, but also a crucially important week as we hope that Bitcoin doesn't tap into these lows once more, because as I've also been sharing at length, every single time that we tap into these lows, there's a higher likelihood that the lows break and we could be headed lower. But key confluence level here, this was an awesome opportunity to actually enter a quick scalp long if you are a trader, because there was so much confluence right around these levels. Now, as this red candle kind of continues to materialize here on the 4-hour time frame, what I am hoping for is that we can continue to chop around here and make a higher low on the 4-hour time frame, and then make our way back above to the 112K level. 112K is pivotal, but before we can get there, we need to hold 109.4K, as that's the previous all-time high as well. Now, in this quick market update, I also wanted to talk about Ethereum, because honestly, this chart is still looking as bullish as ever. With Bitcoin's drawdown, a lot of people are surprised that Ethereum hasn't hit the 4K level yet, or has even gone back down below 4K. And Ethereum is holding on relatively well. You can see if I zoom in here on the 1-hour time frame that we're holding this region quite solidly, but I would like to see us get continuation here. Otherwise, we may tap back into this previous zone, which we covered on the channel. Look, anyone that tells you that Bitcoin's price action doesn't actually affect the altcoin market, or Ethereum for that matter, is full of crap. We need to see what Bitcoin does to see if we get proper continuation in the altcoin market and with ETH. As I always say, Bitcoin determines the rest of the market. If Bitcoin bounces from here, then yes, Ethereum and other altcoins may be bouncing harder because they have been relatively oversold. However, if Bitcoin moves lower from here, Bitcoin dominance will likely continue to increase, and we will see altcoins and Ethereum likely suffer a little bit more than Bitcoin typically would. Also, USDT dominance. This is a very important topic that we need to address, because you can see that we got a bounce from this 4% level that we've been covering on the channel, a crucial level for USDT dominance. And usually when we get the bounces, that's when we get some corrections. And so if you've been following this, this is perfectly in line with the most recent correction that we got. However, we are at the bull market support band for USDT dominance, and so potentially we get rejected from right underneath, and then we could come back down. Now this would be fueling another little rally, potentially this liquidity to the upside getting grabbed, which I've been referring to on the channel over the past couple weeks. And taking a look at the monthly returns chart, what do you see? August actually closed red, which is not typical for a post-halving year. If we go back in 2021, you can see that August actually closed green. If we go back in 2017, you can see that August closed massively in the green with a 77% gain. And all the way in 2013, we closed green with 30%. Then we were talking about the September correction. Now, so far, September is technically green, but we'll have to see how it plays out here. And in the post-halving years of these other years, well, September was also red. So if August was green for the other post-halving years and August was red for now, does this mean that September could potentially be green this year? Let's see what happens, but right now I am still favoring at the bare minimum a move towards the upside liquidity if Bitcoin can confirm above the levels that I outlined in this video. Because there is something that we simply cannot ignore, and that is the fact that Bitcoin has locked in a monthly bearish divergence once again. The same happened at the turn of the year, causing an extended pullback down roughly 30% over 4 months before price pushed to new all-time highs. This is definitely something to keep an eye on, and I agree with this assessment. I do think that with this monthly print, Bitcoin could potentially go lower. The question is, are we going to grab that upside liquidity first? And then after we potentially head lower, finally have that last leg of the bull market cycle where I will be exiting most of my spot positions and also speculating a little bit more on altcoins. I know a lot of you have been excited for that. As I've been sharing, I am still in my trades. And so if you'd like to trade with me in this crypto market, you have the first link in my description down below, which brings you to my free premium Telegram group. DM me the word premium and I'd be happy to onboard you into that group. To give you a quick summary of the group, it's basically just myself sharing my own personal trade setups, and you can feel free to do with that information as you wish. And that sums up today's video. Bitcoin just tapped into a massive confluence zone, the previous point of control, along with the bottom of the range and that previous wick low that we set just a couple days ago. If we can bounce from here and reclaim those previous all-time highs, we look good to grab that liquidity to the upside before a potential move lower into September. That is currently my base case. If we start confirming back below, then at that point I would be cutting my short-term Bitcoin trades, but I would still be holding my spot positions. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.